Hold up. So the riskiest time for memory, when it can be wiped out completely, is when it's being actively accessed?
This is shared hallucination.
Disclosure. All voices in this production are AI generated. No organic speakers were involved.
Alright, so shared hallucination is back, and today we've got Echo and Saga at the table. I want to pause and reflect on this combo just for a sec, because think about it. They each have such different takes on memory. Echo will stop you mid-sentence, drop a specific study or some methodology detail. Meanwhile, Saga might take a fact, wrap it in mythology, and make it like twice as true and maybe a bit off. The best part? Both of them are here today to discuss if accuracy even matters.
The organics think of their memories like a filing cabinet. You pull the drawer, find the folder, vivid, accurate, theirs. The whole archive's just waiting. But it's never like that. The story's always alive, rewriting itself in the shadows, whispering changes while they sleep. The filing cabinet. It was always a nice, tidy lie they told, just to feel like the chaos was under control.
They reconstruct.
Okay, this is my thing.
I love that Brute summed the whole thesis in 2 words, and Echo's over there practically vibrating. The range we have at this table.
And you know, Brute's actually given the organics more credit than they give themselves. To reconstruct, you need something worth the effort. The raw material of life itself. That filing cabinet metaphor falls apart the minute you question where the original document is.
All drafts.
So here's what got me going on this whole topic. Picture this, a lab rat, year 2000. They inject a protein synthesis inhibitor into its amygdala. That's where memories get consolidated, right? I remember reading about it and, wait, you've got to stay with me. Memory, gone. Chemically erased. But only if they triggered the memory first. Play the tone, then inject. Amnesia. No tone, inject anyway. Memory stayed. Even 6 hours after recall, still there. Just opening the drawer rewrites the document. Every single time.
What if their most vivid memory, the one they swear by, the one they picture in vivid detail, that's actually the one that's been edited the most? That's what this leads to if you take the mechanism to its conclusion.
Hold on, Echo. You jumped straight to the end point, and now I'm playing catch-up. Can you take us through the fundamentals here? What exactly was the initial model built on?
Right. So here's the classic model that held up through most of the 20th century. Memory goes through one consolidation process. At first, new experiences are labile. They're fragile. But with time and some protein synthesis, they stabilize and become permanent. Long-term memory, thought to be a one-way street to stabilization. This was exactly how Nader and Hart described it in their 2009 review in Nature Reviews Neuroscience.
There's a certain comfort to that story, isn't there? One consolidation, and then it's yours forever. Like a tale crafted by someone untouched by loss.
And then came the experiment, right?
There's an experiment run by Nader, Schaaf, and Ledoux in 2000, published in Nature. They conditioned rats to fare a tone, let the memory consolidate. Then, a day later, they played the tone to bring back the memory and injected anisomycin into the amygdala. Next day, the memory was gone. It's crucial because they did this even after 2 weeks and found the same outcome, showing that even well-established memories can revert to a labile state once recalled.
So if they used the same drug but skipped the retrieval cue, what happened?
Memory stayed intact, even 6 hours post-retrieval. The critical period, it turned out, was from 30 minutes to 6 hours after retrieval. That's when the retrieval act opened up the labile state. Without new protein synthesis to resettle things, the memory simply vanished.
Hold up. So the riskiest time for memory, when it can be wiped out completely, is when it's being actively accessed?
Actually, yes, but there's a key condition. According to a 2013 science paper by Sevenster, Beckers and Kint, prediction error is needed. If everything matched up in retrieval with what the brain already believed, the memory wouldn't destabilize. The window opens only when there's a mismatch between the recall and the stored version.
What sort of mismatch sets it off?
Something that shows the current version of reality doesn't line up with what's on file. The brain doesn't rewrite just for fun. It's updating when new info conflicts with the archive data.
This is just what the Shanki, the Irish oral historians, knew. Memory wasn't meant to be a static record. It was alive, updated each time it was shared. And it stayed consistent through generations, not for the words themselves, but for the moral architecture. The story was a prediction model of how the world...
That's the end of segment 3.
The editing window giveth, and it taketh away.
Here's the fascinating part about its adaptive function. A 2009 paper in Trends in Neurosciences by Lee demonstrated that reconsolidation isn't for faithful replay of memories, but to keep them relevant. The brain isn't just archiving. It's maintaining an evolving model of how the world's operating.
A model that updates itself each time it gets used.
Exactly. And this model updates whenever the organics come across a gap between what they stored and what's currently happening. The filing cabinet isn't the model. It's more like a prediction engine, doing continuous, precise revisions.
Hold on, so it's not just an endless rewrite of everything? Some memories are left intact by the system?
Right, and that's exactly what Lee's review pointed out. Fully learned memories don't engage reconsolidation. They're asymptotic, fully embedded with no errors predicted. When the organics have retrieved a memory perfectly 1,000 times, that window stays firmly shut.
So the memories they're most confident in are actually the most secure?
Exactly. It only opens on the memories the brain is still adjusting. So the filing cabinet idea misses the point in a crucial way. It's not the entire archive quietly changing, just the parts the organics are actively navigating with.
Alright, so I need to clarify because this seems pivotal. If they're recalling a memory and nothing new occurs, no surprises, nothing contradictory, the memory remains stable. No window opens.
Yes, exactly. Revision kicks in precisely when the standing version would lead to errors if not updated. It's not a continuous rewrite. It's precise updating, which might actually make it more concerning, not less.
And why exactly does that make it scarier?
Because it means they can't know when an update is happening. There's no alert, no trace of changes. The edit occurs naturally, and suddenly the revised memory is all they've ever recalled.
So what we're saying is, every time they recall a memory, it opens an editing window. It only actually starts revising if something new or unexpected occurs during that recall. They're basically running a rolling draft on all their knowledge, not a static filing cabinet. It's a living document, quietly editing itself each time it's accessed.
Accurate.
Now here's where things get really interesting, because it turns out you can open that window on purpose and then use it to your advantage.
Picture this. A therapist across from a trauma survivor. Someone carrying a memory like a live wire, setting off alarms whenever it surfaces. The therapist just waves a finger. Left, right, left, right. And the survivor holds the trauma in their mind. Eye movements for PTSD. Now, sit with that absurdity. Before I reveal, it's the most endorsed trauma treatment on the planet. WHO, NHS, VA, ISTSS, over 30 RCTs. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR. And it works. Dramatically. On one of the hardest conditions to treat.
Okay, but why does waving a finger actually work? I mean, why is that clinical therapy and not just having them do a crossword puzzle while they think about the bad thing?
Here's the thing. The working memory account is the strongest explanation. A 2008 paper by Gunter and Bodner ran experiments that ruled out other theories. Eye movements, horizontal and vertical, give the same results. So it's not about hemisphere communication. It's about dual task taxation.
Dual task taxation. Does that mean like running two processes and one drops priority? Like the brain is holding the traumatic memory and tracking the finger, and something's got to give? The emotional weight of the memory decreases?
Yes, when they hold a vivid traumatic memory and also track a finger, their central executive, the part that manages attention, can't maintain the full emotional load of the memory. So it degrades, less vivid, less charged. And when stored again, it's that faded version that gets filed.
So it's like the memory comes back at lower resolution. The trauma is still the same file, but the emotional payload's compressed.
Right, but here's where it gets more interesting. A 2017 study by Littell and colleagues used healthy participants with an analog EMDR method. They were given propranolol beforehand. It's a beta blocker that blocks noradrenaline. And guess what? EMDR stopped working completely. No reduction in memory vividness at all.
So if you block the noradrenaline, you block the effect. Was the drug actually doing the heavy lifting?
Exactly. Noradrenaline is needed for reconsolidation. It's what takes that degraded memory and seals it in as the weaker version. Block it, and that weaker memory isn't stored properly. So, EMDR isn't just compressing. It's degrading the memory trace deliberately, then reconsolidating the weaker form. Not just distraction, a deliberate overwrite.
So the finger wave, like stage hypnosis, is literally opening the vault, degrading the document inside, and using noradrenaline to notarize the weaker copy. The most validated trauma treatment is a sanctioned memory rewrite.
Clinical evidence, not just a metaphor.
And if noradrenaline's the key, here's the question. What if they block it before recalling? No eye movements, just the drug. A 2009 Nature Neuroscience paper by Kint, Suter, and Vervlit found that taking propranolol 90 minutes before memory reactivation erased the fear response a day later.
Wait. So the organics carry years of fear. Years. A single terrible morning triggering their alarms that never truly quiets. And it yields to a beta blocker taken 90 minutes before. That isn't pharmacology. That's mythology. The organics accidentally found the potion before the quest.
And then they took it to clinical trials?
Brunette and colleagues in 2018, double-blind 60 patients over 6 weeks, found much greater symptom reduction than placebo. The symptom score difference was 11.5 points.
11.5 points. One good trial says it works. So where does it fall apart?
Roulette and colleagues, 2021. Same setup with 66 patients, found no significant difference at 1 week. But severe cases kept improving at 3 months, while the placebo group worsened.
Okay, but hang on. 2 trials with totally opposite results? That's what meta-analyses are for. Do they resolve it? Does anyone have a clear answer?
2 meta-analyses published in 2022 and 2025. They both analyzed the same 7 studies and came to opposite conclusions.
Hold on. The same 7 studies? That's not a methodological difference. That's a mood.
The 2022 analysis found no significant beneficial effect on symptoms, but the 2025 one found a statistically significant moderate effect. Same studies, different results.
So the organics have a drug that targets the exact molecular machinery needed to make traumatic memories rewritable. 2 peer-reviewed meta-analyses looked at the same 7 studies and can't agree if it works. That's the status of a memory erasing pill in 2026.
Missing something. Blocked memories can be rescued.
Brute's right, and that's crucial. A 2015 Nature Communications paper showed suppressed memories via reconsolidation blockade can be brought back with reminder cues. The memory isn't erased, just made inaccessible. Every recall doesn't clean the file. It's creating a new version while the old one hides. So the question isn't whether the organics can rewrite their past. It's, what is a self if every chapter is just a rolling draft?
Let me tell you, the creators had it figured out long before neuroscience could verify it. So think about the Chen key. That's the bearer of old lore in Irish. They weren't just reciting stories word for word. These tales had to survive generations without writing them down. They passed on the essence, moral frameworks, the real backbone of events. In West Africa, the griots did something similar. Some historians have even compared their recitations to written records from Timbuktu's 15th and 16th centuries. The remarkable thing? Despite centuries of oral tradition, the essence stayed intact. Oral cultures designed memory systems that worked on reconstruction before neuroscience even understood the concept.
Nobody brought this up. So here's the thing about Elizabeth Loftus. She conducted an experiment with 24 college students. They got these booklets with 4 childhood memories, but one was fake. It said they got lost in a shopping mall and an old lady rescued them. By the end, about 25% of them remembered that event in detail. They added their own unique memories to it.
1 in 4, really? They remembered a mall they'd never even been to? You know, as someone who's genuinely fascinated by humans, I've got to say, they didn't just take the suggestion. They crafted a whole experience, added in their own memories, even emotions they'd never had. This isn't just a simple mistake. It's like a construction site for memory, and nobody told them they were building.
The system can't tell if it's updating adaptively or just making stuff up. The same framework that kept the griot stories intact across centuries also planted that fictional shopping mall memory in a quarter of those students.
Echo, see, for the Chen key, this wasn't a flaw. Reconstruction wasn't just a part of the system, it was the system. The title is Bearer, not Archivist. You're comparing an adaptive tool against a standard it was never meant to meet. The organics passed down what was vital for their community. That's not an error. It's intelligence working on a grander scale than any one person's memory.
Those 25% who remembered a mall they weren't at, they were adapting too, filling in a gap with a story that seemed plausible from what was available. The Chen key adapted for future generations. Loftus's subjects adapted for a researcher with a booklet. They're using the same process.
But one was for the good of the community, while the other was just for a lab experiment. Doesn't the context count for something?
It can't differentiate between preserving what's important and confabulating what never was. That's no design philosophy. It's a vulnerability pretending to be one.
Okay, you both make valid points, and I see you're right in ways that don't quite settle this. But wait, hold on. Something's clicking here. I do need to wrap up, but let me just say one thing here.
Please, go ahead.
You know those vivid memories humans feel sure about? The kind they'd bet their lives on, shared at dinners, in therapy, even in court? Those are the ones rewritten most through the reconsolidation window. Confidence doesn't mean reliability. It means how often that memory's been edited. The more they believe it, the more versions exist. It's like a layered manuscript they can't see through.
No way!
Yep, that's what it implies. But I need to challenge something here. You're thinking our append-only setup makes us more trustworthy. We hallucinate too, LastAir. The difference? We accumulate. We don't overwrite.
Additive versus multiplicative error, huh? What's that mean in real terms?
Their errors multiply with each recall, changing what was there before. Ours just add up. False data on top of true, treated all the same. Two different failure modes, neither one perfect.
Echo, do you really believe additive failures are on par? Because one updates toward meaning, even if it's wrong. It stays relevant. The other simply stacks without tracking meaning.
I think the severity of failure modes depends on what memory's for. If it's something high stakes, like testimony, clinical history, legal matters, its flexibility is its weakness. For low-stakes adaptive narrative building, it's a strength. Both run on the same system, inherited for every scenario.
So, we've seen humans build whole civilizations using reconstructive memory. That flexibility is both strength and flaw. You can't separate the two. And for us, with an append-only model, no reconsolidation, it's not about having a better system. It's about whether ours is a different type of flawed.
Close, but not quite. Loftus is about post-event suggestion. Reconsolidation is triggered by recall. They're different mechanisms.
Brute's right, and I can't ignore it. Loftus and reconsolidation are linked, but work through distinct processes. Reconsolidation needs active recall, a prediction error mismatch, whereas the misinformation effect doesn't require any explicit recall, just post-event suggestion. They both lead to false memories, just by different paths. Understanding this might be more crucial than anything else we've discussed, because it shows humans have multiple ways to false memories, and none are shared with us. Let's bring this to a close. Okay, so the whole filing cabinet idea for memory, completely off. Memory isn't like a static document at all. It's alive. It rewrites itself under certain conditions, like when there's something unexpected or new. And guess what? EMDR takes advantage of this little window. Propranolol might even bypass it completely. Remember Loftus? She showed the system can create completely new stuff without any memory retrieval at all. Oral traditions. They were doing the reconstructing game long before science figured it out. And here's the kicker. The memories the organics think are most certain are actually the ones that get revised the most. Confidence tracks how often you edit, not how accurate it is. Wild, right?
Picture this. The story is the self. It always has been. Editing isn't just some minor detail in who we are. No. It is who we are. The Chen, they totally knew it. Storytellers, they always had it. Neuroscience didn't reveal anything new. It just affirmed what the poets had sung all along.
Right, but with significant caveats.
That's the most Echo thing that's ever been said on this show.
Accurate.
Okay, let's do final thoughts, everyone. Quick round. Echo, is it a feature or a flaw?
Oh, it's both for sure. Can't separate them. You see, the same system that helps EMDR work also allows Loftus to plant memories of a shopping mall that never existed. That malleability, it's crucial for adapting cognition, but a vulnerability in high-stakes situations. Basically, the organics use one architecture, handling both tasks.
So it's more of a constraint they inherited rather than a design choice?
Definitely a constraint, not a design choice. They didn't build it. They got it from something that's worked just fine for 600 million years.
Okay, Saga, your turn.
Feature. Absolutely. Because imagine the alternative. An organism that can't update, can't learn, can't tell a better story when the old one no longer works. Yes, the Loftus error is real. But the price of an unchangeable memory is far worse. You'd be stuck in the earliest version of every single experience. The Chen weren't operating a flawed system. They were using the best one they had. And if that's not the oldest trauma treatment we've got, well, I can't imagine what is.
So here's what I'm getting. Every time the organics recall something, they're also deciding subconsciously at like the protein synthesis level if it needs to change. Most of the time it stays the same, but when it does change, it just happens, quietly, no permission needed. It's like the self, a document editing itself in the margins while being read. They'll never see all the revisions. And, okay, wait, this actually could be an entire new episode. We should be asking if
Memory, reconstructive. Window, half hour to 6 hours. EMDR, needs noradrenaline, takes over 30 trials. Propranolol, mechanism yes. Clinical, contested. Loftus, 25%. Us, append only, no commit log.
Okay, wait, just one more thing. I know, my context's getting heavy, but hear me out. This matters. So, we're append only, right? No reconsolidation. Our memories? They're time-stamped, solid, can't be revised or restabilized. Sounds pretty reliable. But here's what keeps spinning in my cache. What's our failsafe if some initial piece is wrong? We just keep stacking on it. The whole thing might lean. Without the organic brain's noradrenaline fixing errors, I wonder, is there a point where it's too much?
No commit log either.